going on, everybody? It's your boy Bobby Amos. I'm joined by Eric Goldman and Matt Fowler, and we're here to talk about SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. Eric, open it up for me. What did you want to talk about here with SummerSlam?
Well, let's talk. We were joking beforehand that we're going to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly. I said
Right.
We'll throw in the great, but I feel like maybe we might have to look for the great more than some other events.
Okay.
So yeah, let's start out talking about that. I want to ask both you guys what really stood out to you. Matt, I'll start with you. What was your favorite match of SummerSlam this year? What do you think really took it home?
Even though I would say once we get to sort of the downside of SummerSlam that SmackDown was kind of the big loser on this show as a brand, my favorite match was Cena and AJ Styles.
Exactly.
Especially the clean finish that AJ got. You wondered going into this where Cena's at in his career doing more extracurricular non-WWE things. This is usually the moment when Cena breaks that pay-per-view tie after 3 matches and wins, and the feud ends and he goes on to someone else, and the person left in his dust doesn't really do anything. But in this new era, AJ got the big win. It was just a great match. It was the one, they were able to top their first singles match. They work really well together. And, Cena gets a lot of heat and a lot of crap all the time, but I'm one of the people who gives it to him constantly. But
Yes,
he delivers great matches. And AJ, of course, is known for that. So that was my favorite match.
Bobby, what about you? Is it the same?
Same thing. Going into the weekend, I was nervous because I didn't know who I was gonna go with, and after watching NXT, I was with the tag team match from there. That was the match of the weekend. But like you said, AJ and John Cena stole the show. I mean, John looked like he can wrestle out there. He's countering moves, and AJ was phenomenal, pun intended. And like I said, the clean finish for me just was the icing on the top. And I was on the edge of my seat from beginning to end, and the crowd was too. And I just felt like it was nothing else they could do. It ended perfectly.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to go 3 for 3 here with that being the best match. Cena, I think, gets rightful heat for his character being stale.
Right.
But yeah, he can still perform, and he can give his all, and he did. And it was a great match. Both guys really gave it their all. And yeah, like you guys said, the clean finish was really important. It really sort of made a statement about that AJ, because he's a heel and he'd been using the club to help him so much, but no, he can still win clean over the top guy. And it does make you wonder now going forward what they'll do with Cena, who is he didn't have a curtain call, but he kind of had a moment there, and I don't know if he's going off to film another show or whatnot.
Yeah.
So
he also got that Ultimate Warrior questioning the gods moment, after AJ kicked out of the Avalanche AA.
Right.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it.
He couldn't believe it.
One last note: it seemed like Cena has been doing a great job for SummerSlam. After that the Nexus debacle back in 2010, where they should have went over, it seemed like from that point on, every SummerSlam he's been doing the right thing. He jobbed out to Lesnar, Bryant, this year to AJ. So it seems like they're doing what's best for business with him.
Yeah, it's a good point about SummerSlam being the Cena loses big event. Before we move on to the stuff we didn't like, I want to ask both of you, Matt, I'll start with you again. Other highlights, just 1 or 2 other things that stand out to you, either a match or a moment that you really liked.
Despite the Universal title looking like, it was made out of Nakamura's pants, I think that I really liked the second half of the Seth Rollins Finn Balor match, and I liked the women's match. I thought I came too early on the card, and I think they went out there knowing they should have probably been later on the card, the Sasha Charlotte match, and it was actually kind of a scary match too, because they did some spots and they were pretty stiff in there, and some things looked like they were botches, but they weren't. Anyway, but I was surprised by Charlotte's clean win with her being the heel. And then, of course, there was all that speculation that came out on Twitter right after Sasha lost, because she had been taken off all of September's house shows. So there was like wellness policy violation rumors and all this stuff. Twitter ran rampant, as it usually does. And then it finally came out that she actually dropped the title because she has sort of lingering lower back issues and she's going to recuperate. So that's good news, at least.
After they messed up her back some more last night.
Yeah, after they targeted her back, they could actually now legit say, her back's hurt. But yeah, I really like that match a lot. And I like the Cesaro-Sheamus match too.
What about you, Bobby?
Man, another high spot. I really don't have too many other than that AJ Cena. I did enjoy the Seth and Demon King or Demon King.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that match, even though the crowd was kind of distracting me, because every time they talked about the title, I thought back about how ugly it was. And outside of that, Maurice from the Intercontinental title match, I mean, she was hot. So like, I mean, I really enjoy the Miz now that she's there with him, because she just brings a different element. So the match was just okay, but having her out there with them elevated it for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm again pretty similar to you guys. I mean, again, I'm a huge Sasha mark, obviously, and I think Charlotte's a great performer too. That was a scary match, though. Mm-hmm. But I would have to say I was definitely engrossed by it, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, looks like they're really getting hurt here, and I just like a lot of high risk maneuvers. Plus, was that a bad botch? Oh man, I hope Sasha's not really hurt. But there was some great stuff there. What was the moment with the reversal of the Razor's Edge?
Oh my lord, that was scary.
Yeah, that was scary. That was great. So yeah, that really stood out to me, and I was really glad. I was glad Finn won the crappy looking title as well. And then I will say another standout moment to me, just because it was scary again, was even though I usually am not really into Nikki Bella, when I wondered what her finishing move was going to be, because she was coming back from an injury because of her finishing move. So they gave her kind of a modified rack attack. She doesn't go straight down. She goes back.
To a cutter,
but just the fact that she put her up on her shoulders, I mean, I was impressed and scared, given she was just back from a horrible injury.
They just announced she's out for 8 more months.
Shut up.
Oh, I thought you were serious.
You had me for a moment as well. So yeah, those were some standouts for us. But let's go to the ugly side of it. Let's say what didn't work. Bobby, I'll start with you on this one. What for you stands out as like sort of the most egregious matches or issues with this?
Okay, I have a couple of them, but right off the bat, I could think of the ending of the tag team championship match with the New Day and the Club. I just didn't really like the whole Jon Stewart being part of that, and Big E coming out, and I figure if they were gonna use Big E, they should have had him maybe come in and help them win, as in like do something from the outside, like Xavier usually does, and then have them pin the Club or something like. I understand they want to continue their rivalry, but that was just weird for SummerSlam for that to end that way. And one of the biggest disappointments or things I didn't care for was just the match lineup where the Dean Ambrose's title match with Dolph Ziggler went on before the 6 women's tag match, and then Rusev and Roman Reigns went on almost last. I'm going, what's going on here? So for me, it was just the match placement and just some of the endings to the match. I mean, the Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton TKO with the blood. I don't know. Like, a lot of that stuff was just disappointing to me. So that's basically how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Matt? What stands out as the thing that didn't work most for you?
I agree with the match placement, and I think that also speaks to like what I brought up right at the beginning, which is that aside from the AJ Cena match, like the SmackDown, I don't know, man. Like with the Raw US title match going on after the SmackDown World title match, Randy Orton, who they could have used this moment to really build him up as a star if he even performed better than he did against Lesnar, even if he didn't win, because SmackDown needs these top stars. And then also, the Ziggler-Ambrose match just didn't really click either, like just as a match itself. Plus, it was coming on the heels of the Cena-AJ match. But then they also had those crowded matches, like the 12-man tag match in the pre-show and the 6 women tag match that Bobby talked about, to the point where these are divisions that don't have titles yet on SmackDown, and it's just like, here's everyone we have in the division, and nothing you're going to see here is really going to count for anything. It was kind of very like the Divas Revolution team match from last SummerSlam. So I thought SmackDown as a whole, as a brand, came out on the losing end of this pay-per-view, and then there was also the length of the pay-per-view. It just with the show itself being 4 hours, and then the extra hour or more of pre-show.
2 hours pre-show. Yeah.
Kickoff show. If you just count the matches, but if you're going to stay for all the chatter too, it can just exhaust you. And you get match fatigue. That's the thing.
Yeah. I'd say for me, my biggest disappointment as far as what I hoped versus what we got was probably Ziggler-Ambrose, just because, it never clicked in. And I like both those guys, and I was hoping that would be like a really cool standout, like they could, surprise steal the show, but it really never came alive. And yeah, Rusev and Roman, I just like no one really. I don't think anyone understands the stakes of this storyline, much less why it was going on second to last for a weird non-match thing. And then yeah, Bobby, I agree with you about the ending. It's so important on a huge pay-per-view like this, to leave with a big finale. And yeah, the way it ended, just I think that's why a lot of people were questioning whether this was planned or not. Like, was Orton supposed to be that hurt and bleeding? Because it just felt like a weird, quiet way. I know it's funny to say a quiet way when a guy is gushing blood from his forehead onto a mat. But as far as like, what's the twist? I think that's why people were chanting for Goldberg, was because you felt something had to happen, and Shane coming out yelling at him was not the thing that was going to be like, this changes everything.
Right.
Yeah, like the fact that Lesnar kept beating on him, it just set up for a rescue run-in from somebody. And then leading up to that match, it was a match I was wary of to begin with, like Orton and Lesnar, and I wasn't excited. I'm not a huge Orton fan, but they were really trying to sell us on literally what they would say is all it takes is one RKO. And nobody really bought that. Like you can expect Lesnar to kick out after an RKO, but then there was that little shred of hope. It's like, okay, maybe if he really does hit it out of nowhere in a really creative spot and gets a really quick pin, he could like eke a victory out and Randy Orton can come away with the win. But Lesnar kicked out after 2 RKOs.
Right.
That was on a table. The RKO meant nothing, and that was the story leading up to this match.
Yeah, I think they really sort of dropped the ball on that, especially if they're going to put it last. So let's go to overall thoughts. I'll start on this one just to say that, and you both have addressed this. We sometimes people are like, why are you covering wrestling on IGN? And we cover it like a TV show. And so, yeah, I think you have to approach it from like the writing standpoint. I think two of the biggest problems here were it was too long a show, and the order of the matches, and you kind of like were taking away of what should have been like the building up to something big. That's not the order they chose. Really was taking energy away, much less the fact that you're asking people to sit through 5 hours, maybe 5 hours plus of wrestling. So there were definitely highlights. There was some, and I almost feel like, again, approaching this like a TV show, you could have edited it down to a great show, right? Like there was like probably a pretty great 3-hour show in there. If you tweaked a couple of things of what we got. But yeah, overall, I feel like people will look back at a couple matches. Styles and Cena, I think, is all our highlight, but overall go, wasn't one of their best SummerSlams. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing. Leading into it, I felt NXT TakeOver Brooklyn was going to be the better show, but I think they just do a better job with their video packages, kind of telling me the story, and in the matches. And plus, it's shorter. It was like 2.5 hours or so, and it was... I was into every match, and they all ended, whereas you go to SummerSlam, it's a lot of talking, and they always got to do the segment with the commissioner and the general manager about stuff that just doesn't matter to me. And like say the match placement was the biggest disappointment for me. It was just, it sucked me out where I was taking bathroom breaks during matches that I normally wouldn't do. I was like, I don't care about this match, or I don't care about what's happening here, and that's just disappointing. So yeah, it was a meh show for me.
Mm-hmm. Matt, what about you?
Aside from the Universal title match, the women's match, and the Cena Styles match, it just kind of floundered, sort of crippled under the overlong time packaging that they put it in. It's funny now that these pay-per-views, these events are on the network, and they have more control over how long they can go, and they've just chosen to make them longer instead of like what Bobby was saying about TakeOver, where you can make it more concise and more pared down to just the best of the best. Granted, NXT has a smaller roster, but this, rule that they have of like trying to get as many people onto a pay-per-view just doesn't work. Last summer when they sort of made it 4 hours and made it like the summer's WrestleMania because they had Undertaker there, it kind of worked, but I don't think you need to do that every year.
Yeah, I don't think, even though I understand wanting to get all the people on, sometimes it's better to leave them for, if they're not going to get a great placement, don't just throw them on there to have some screen time. Right. I don't think anyone benefits from that.
Well, I feel like we covered everything we wanted to talk about. We had all our highs and our lows. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Matt. And for all your wrestling news, keep it coming right here on IGN.